Let's chow down here and munch on some grinding!
Son-in-Law from 1993. The hilarious Pauly Shore Thanksgiving movie we all love. I want to hear it. We all love this movie. Welcome back to the Ecto-Violence channel. My name is Alec, and today we're talking Son-in-Law on VHS. I grew up watching this movie, so I don't remember watching it for the first time. It's always been with me, and I didn't even really associate it too much with Thanksgiving until I was older. But now it's a yearly tradition alongside Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and Spider-Man. And today I thought we'd talk about the VHS for it. So let's go ahead and pop it in. Now immediately we are greeted with the All Rights Reserved logo popping up. Duplication prohibited. Hollywood Pictures home video logo. I love seeing those things. If you don't know, Hollywood Pictures was sort of a little Disney imprint that put out comedy movies for the most part in the early 90s.
Now available to own on video cassette.
There's a trailer for another great Pauly Shore movie called In the Army Now. I don't know if you've seen it, but check it out if you haven't. It also stars Andy Dick and Lori Petty. Again, I'm just a huge Pauly Shore fan in general, so any of his movies I'm into pretty much. There's a trailer for A Simple Twist of Fate and a trailer for A Low-Down Dirty Shame. Two movies that I don't really honestly remember. And the classic featured presentation bumper.
And now, our feature presentation.
And of course the film has been modified, you know. Let's get to the movie, come on. So Son-in-Law opens up with the graduation of the main character. Her name is Rebecca, or Becca. And essentially she goes from her little country town and goes to college in California. Meets Crawl, portrayed by Pauly Shore. I gotta say, this print is dark as hell. I'd had to do a little bit of adjusting on the color to make it look good for this review. You know, I had a discussion recently with my brother about these movie t-shirts that we wanted, like the one from Teen Wolf, What Are You Looking At, Dick Knows, Stephen King Rules from Monster Squad, High on Stress from Revenge of the Nerds, and this one that her kid brother wears, who, by the way, is portrayed by Patrick Renna, who is excellent in this role, absolutely magical. And if you go to conventions, you should check him out because he does a lot of appearances at those. Anyway, he's wearing a shirt that says, "Seduce me, please," and yeah, that's hilarious. At least it was to me as a child. I probably wouldn't wear that out of my house these days, but I mean, that's the same thing with him going through her roommate's underwear and then the shock value of, oh my god, lesbians.
Oh my, lesbians.
That's where we get the intro to Crawl. He's the resident advisor. Again, Pauly Shore, just perfect. And this is probably, I would say, Pauly Shore is most family-friendly and tolerable. Not that he's ever like super gruesome or like sexual, but like, Biodome, all he's trying to do is basically bone that whole movie. And you either love Pauly Shore or you hate him. I do love all the jokes he makes about people being inbreeders in this movie. We got to talk about the Halloween bash, all the costumes there. You have, obviously, the cameo from Brendan Fraser. And, you know, she's kind of just sick and frustrated, and Crawl takes her out. He gets her like a little bit of a makeover almost. She cuts her hair, dyes it, is wearing new clothes. They go out rollerblading, all this cool 90s activities, you know. You get the tattoo scene with Flea, which, I feel like Crawl would be into tattoos. And the mud wrestling scene. So this is interesting. There's a mud wrestling scene in this, and there's also a mud wrestling scene in Stripes. Pauly Shore pretty much remade Stripes when he made In the Army Now. Take funny guy, put in Army. And I'm not saying it didn't work, because I love In the Army Now. But it's just funny to me that scene is in this movie and not that one. So he's invited to go to home with her for Thanksgiving, essentially, and spend it with her family. Back on the farm! You get lots of fun stuff here with Pauly Shore just stoked, and he's like swimming on the land. He's having her dad film him do weird shit on the farm.
Middle America, ripping the fields. Ahoo! Ahoo! Getting barrel pipeline. Ahoo!
Honestly, it's pretty easy comedy stuff. If you like Pauly Shore, you'll find this funny. If you're a light and easygoing person, you might even find it funny. But everybody else is probably like, dear God. I think it's hilarious and borderline creepy when he's walking up on her brother while eating that sandwich, and he's like,
You ever meet the Tooth Fairy?
No.
Never?
No.
I wouldn't fall asleep if I were you.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Too harsh, bro. Come on.
You know, it's a classic movie about culture shock. They go out shopping for clothes. I always really enjoyed this scene. He gets some cheek chillers on, as he calls them. And this is where the whole movie gets set off, essentially. He gets a really asinine outfit and goes to dinner with her parents, where her actual boyfriend proposes to her, and he has to kind of step in and be like, no, we're actually already engaged, because she's kicking him and doesn't want to marry this guy, and that's kind of the plot of the whole movie. So he starts farming. And some of this stuff, it's like they show him doing it at first, and he's bad at it, right? He's bad at it, it's gross, it's hard work, until he gets into the combine and finds a John Denver cassette tape. Now, because of this movie, I want to listen to this song every November. Later on, he even gives her mom a makeover scene. He's bonding with their family. He goes fishing with her dad and grandpa and ends up saving him. And the movie ends essentially with Thanksgiving dinner. Now, I do want to talk about that ridiculous ending, though. So her boyfriend, Travis, drugs both Crawl and this other girl, puts them in the barn, and it makes them look like they had sex, so that he can try to swoop in. Absolutely psychotic, crazy behavior, and I wouldn't expect any less from a man. So let's talk about the positives for son-in-law. First of all, Pauly Shore. Obviously for me, he's going to be a positive. For you, that might be a negative. I don't know. Carla Gugino, another positive. Both of them carry this movie, obviously. I thought they worked pretty well together, and both of them are really interesting. I think actors, as well as the characters they're portraying in this movie, were interesting. And the supporting cast, while also good, I think her parents are the best of the supporting cast. The rest of it's kind of wishy-washy, but some of them just don't have a lot to do. The music, the sort of vibe that's going on in this movie, this sort of country, fish out of water situation with, I don't know even how to describe the music, but it's very 90s. And the comedy, it's hilarious. Now, I don't think you can put things like cinematography in the positive category for a comedy movie. I don't think it goes in the negative, but don't really have much to say on how the movie was shot or produced, which is something that's nice about comedy. And as far as the negatives go for Son-in-Law, this was the first time I have ever watched this movie where I was like, oh, some of this is a little cheesy in a ridiculous way, a little too cheesy. There's a couple moments here and there, I can't even think of them off the top of my head, so they must not be that big of a deal. But other people might watch this and think that's the whole movie. And before I rate this movie, I do want to remind you, I do have a Patreon. You can join in the link down below. You can also become a channel member. The perks are pretty much the same as Patreon, although Patreon's a little bit cheaper. And leave a comment down below letting me know what you think of Son-in-Law. Are you a big fan? Is it just okay? Do you hate it? I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 hearts. This is easily number 2 Thanksgiving movie of all time for me. In fact, it actually was number 2 in my list of top 10 Thanksgiving movies. You can check that out here. If you like this video, be sure to check out this one and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.